My name is Kofi Kula. Today, we will be looking at what has been happening in terms of our young people and the rise of knife and gun crime, how it's affecting our community, how some parents have become so fearful even to go out or to let their children go out. Only about 3 weeks ago, where we have a young person, two 15-year-olds were stabbed in Stratford, where one of them lost his life. Only last weekend, two teenagers were also killed in Milton Keynes. Today, we are very lucky to have Bishop Francis Sarpong, the General Overseer of Calvary Charismatic Baptist Church, with us. Thank you, Bishop, for coming.
Thank you.
We also have Ken Hinds, who is the chairman of Haringey Communities Against Violence and police advisor for Stop and Search. Thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
Thanks. And we also have Mr. Emmanuel Kwesi, who is the chairman of Ghana Union. Thank you.
Thank you.
And the idea is for our community leaders to share with us in terms of critical solutions for the rise in knife crimes, among our young people. We will start with you, Ken, first. Ken, what is the root cause of all these problems? Why we having our young people are experiencing these problems? Parents don't know what to do anymore.
There's no one solution or no one reason, but I can say this that influences the violence. It's simple thing is poverty. So that's economic factors. There's also a degree of single parenting that add to this, and also child parenting, where people are not even old enough or have life experience, but yet have children, and they haven't got the infrastructure to support. Like it takes a village to bring up a child. They haven't got that village. So what they're doing, they're just guessing, and what's happening quite clearly, their children, some of their children, particularly male children, are saying that they've got to step up and become that man in the house. But if you haven't shown him what it is to be a man, then he's going to have to go out there and experiment. And unless he's a genius, he's more likely not to get it right. But another important factor that's been quite telling in my community is the effect of the police-community relation. Right? And over the last 40 years, particularly, because again, I've been here for that length of time, I'm seeing if not 4 generations being affected by the police, the overuse of stop and search. So in where I'm living, with predominantly a black area, what we call it a police force. But if you go to the rich part of the borough, you have what we call a police service. Now, how that shows itself on the ground, 90% of the stop and search that they do will be in the poor borough. And what I find, because I do also advise the police, and what I say is quite critical, is the interaction between the police and the person being stopped and searched. That can, if the police are professional at all time, that can leave the person inspired.
We'll come to the stop and search, but now we're looking at the root causes, and what are some of the, you feel that, you mentioned single parents, you feel that you mentioned about young people taking over the control of the household.
That's right.
Yeah.
With no experience, and also social media. Social media, Instagram, Facebook, things of that nature are being posted. Things are being posted inappropriately. Whereas before, if you had a fight, that will stay local. And even if you give me a black eye and beat me up and I have to submit, I'm not too embarrassed. But now people's got their cameras, videos, and they're posting things. Sometimes terrible things, sometimes embarrassing things, and people feel like they have to step up and do something about it. And I say, if we don't feel we can go to the police to solve our issue, we are going to go and solve it ourselves. And unfortunately, what they're very good at doing, is getting other young men involved.
So what is the role of parents here?
The role of the parents, what I've seen in parenting, in my day, the parents were very strict. Yes, and yes, we used to get some licks, but you know what? I deserved the licks. But it didn't put me too wrong. But nowadays, I'm finding parents want to be the best friend of their child. So therefore, the respect element or that line of parenting has been, you know, clouded.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, Mr. Quayson.
I think there's a total disconnect between in our family lifestyle. At homes, you find children either being nurtured with a phone in their hand all day, or parents not even having the time to check what they are doing. Very hardly you see parents going back home after work to check their school bags. What is hiding there? And then also the fact that parents actually, from our community, I think, going around, I think we need a lot more education, because a lot of our mothers and fathers actually don't know what they can do and what they are not allowed to do. And there is this fear that has been imposed in the community by schools, by social services, by other authorities, rightly or wrongly, and it seems to be beginning to try and detract parent from their own children, with the fear that whatever I say, I might find myself in the wrong hands of the law. And that, for that matter, I'd rather just keep it, manage the situation rather than solving it.
So where is this thing about family, where you consult with the other family members to support?
Well, this is the problem. There is no the network here. The society we live in here can be a bit selfish society. It is a selfish society, because you could be living with your next door for a whole week. You won't even see whether they are in or not.
You are the head of the Ghana Union, and we have a lot of associations.
We do,
so,
but you see, this is one of the problems. I'm saying that there's a disconnect, because when you go to these groups, you hardly see children there. A lot of our parents who go to this entertaining event, how many of them even encourage their children to come and have a look? I mean, probably myself included. How many of us, because we are quite comfortable to say, oh, they are okay, and you know, everything is fine, and I'm going to my weekend event, either a funeral or party, whatever. And as we continue doing that, the children also have to find something that will keep them while you're away. And whatever that something is, could be going out there with friends, which lead them into doing things that they had not intended to do. But all it takes is a friend to say, look, I've got these trainers. Don't you like it? If you like it, go and help me, you know, take this to this my friend on the corner. Before you realize you are carrying drug with you.
So
and that is how it starts.
Do parents know their children?
Well, you can only know when you take the time to check what is going on. If I go home and in a couple of days or two, I've seen my child carrying a watch or carrying some nice Nike bag that I haven't bought, and you're quite comfortable that, oh, a friend gave it to you. Who is that friend? What happened for that friend to think that I will give you my nice Nike trainers? And some parents don't even ask, because they think, oh yeah, it's his friend.
Do you think as Africans, we have a conflict in terms of teenagers? In terms of teenagers, our teenagers' identity here and the parents' identity. And there is a conflict in terms of the style of their lifestyle to parents' lifestyle.
There is a conflict, because straight away from where we grew, some of us, you can't be wearing people's clothes. I mean, my parents will never allow you to come home and say, my friend gave me a pair of trainers. And I've always said that I don't want to see anything else in my house apart from the one I've given you. If you go and get it, make sure you discard it before you come home. And I get hated for that. But that is fine, because at the end of the day, I am the one that sets the rules.
That's right.
And if you don't do that, it's a matter of time gradually. Giving 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, it becomes normal to them. That is where it starts going wrong, because when they can't get it, they have to find it somehow. And these days, a lot of this drug and a lot of these things that lead into this crime are all to do with money. And if I can't afford it, whatever I have to do to get it, some parents can't afford £150 worth of trainers if you've got 4 kids.
Do some of the association members come to you or other members to say that they're experiencing difficulties?
I've met parents who are even frightened in their own home. They can't even open their mouth.
Because of their children?
Yes. They are
what age
frightened.
range?
Well, we're talking about people from 15, 16, 17. The way I've actually visited a parent who when the child finishes school, the woman's heart is beating. And she'll be
Why?
calling,
Why?
because anything she says, the child will just scream at her.
Oh.
And you will call police, and because they are underage or under 16, some of them are under 16 or 18, the police they will not do anything. They will just maintain the peace at the moment and walk away. And if you're not careful, you find yourself in your own home where you can't even enjoy.
Some parents are experiencing abuse from their own children.
Yes.
And they don't know what to do.
They don't know what to do.
Thank you. Bishop, I mean, you father of nations. You know, your one is very big. You have a lot of congregation around the world. And I believe that you have all the answers to this. What is the root cause? What is the root cause, Bishop?
I'm sure you will try to have all the
What is the root cause?
If anybody has the answers, it's the man who has the answers. But thank you very much.
Yes,
And
thank
also
you.
thank you to the audience. I think myself and Archbishop Sarpong has been at the forefront of this for quite some time.
Yes.
I can say that from 2010 going, which is like 9 years now that this thing has really escalated. And anytime we were at the barrier of a young one, we always try to figure out, because quite often we are asked to speak. And to speak, you need to know what you are speaking, what you are addressing. Because almost any of these days, you go there and there are like 1,000 young ones there. So you have to tell them something. You need to know something. So we try to interview the young ones to find out what's going on, why is this thing happening. And over the years, if on my own analysis, I trace this thing from local gangs, which I've been here for over 30 years. When we were here, there were a little bit hint of little gangs, sometimes from Jamaica, sometimes from Nigeria, sometimes from, but it wasn't known in the open. But after some time, our boys started copying the American gangster lifestyle. And it was more of a localized thing.
How did they copy it? From music?
Social media, music, the Colombian gangster, raps, and all of that. So we realized that it was more of a local thing that these boys have copied. So if they are boys in Hackney, then they form themselves into their own local gangster, trying to copy that gangster lifestyle with no ill intent. Then as gangs in Hackney form, gangs in South London form, then it became like, okay, if you're a gang here, we are stronger than you. Then it turned into the postcode.
Territorial.
So that is what is the postcode war now.
That is what it started.
Yes.
So it didn't relate to anything. It's just postcode. Once you cross here, and I had to take some youth to a couple of branches to a program. There was a time we took some youth from here to South London to Trinity. And immediately we arrived there because of what they were wearing, because over there they were red and they were not wearing red. So it's like, you guys, you've crossed. So they have to all left their hands and they took their mobile phones. And, So that is about 6-7 years ago. So it started as a territorial show-off. We are here. Then that culture then generated into, okay, now we can make money out of this. Then that's why the drill music and those things started in. Now I've been in court for the past month where I was part of a case. And all what the defense were saying is that, look, the drill music is a business. So if these boys are singing, somebody has written it for them to sing, so they are performers. That's the defense. But what is happening is that the gangs form themselves into a group. In their music, they are selling, they are sending messages, they are threatening, they are telling you, if you cross this area, We are in charge of this area. If you cross this area, have you seen that we did this to your friend? We will do that. And so they could even kill and play it in the music. So it developed into that. And this was controlled by the young people themselves, because investigation showed that most of these young people in this drill mill, they're like 17, 19, whatever. Then of late, probably 2-3 years, the drug effect came in. These boys have developed from gangs to local businessmen in their own. Then the drug effect came in. So these big boys, like the 30 or whatever, realized that, okay, there is these pockets that we can use. If you watch the news last 2 weeks, they said London is the highest drug consumption in the whole Europe. You understand?
That's serious.
London is the highest drug consumption, and the figure they gave, if Europe is 5%, London is like 23%. So it's not something that we have seen. So all of a sudden there's drugs everywhere. They did something they call drainage test. Drainage test is where they could check what goes in. And London is like 4 times everywhere in Europe. So which means people are peddling drugs. Now, who are peddling these drugs? And more often than not, you see that now is the young ones that they are using. Because if a 30-year-old cross into an area, he'll be found out. But if they can get a 15-year-old wearing school dress, if they can get a 17-year-old who is like in 6th form, you can go anywhere. So these people have been peddling for these pimps or whatever we call them. And we have seen that if a 17-year-old go and sell somewhere, then they will send somebody after you. And the few deaths that I have seen over the few, later investigation find out that there are drugs involved.
Other young people I've spoken to are also saying that they don't want to work for anyone. They want to work for themselves.
That's what I'm saying.
That's right. Simply this. It's because they get the... Because what's happening is, as you said, the 30-year-old might go down there and realize that if it's a person who's 14 and 15, they aren't going to be treated as roughly as someone who's over 18.
Yes.
They're still a juvenile. And what happened here in this system, you get a slap in the wrist. Even if you're under 18 and you get found with a knife, you don't go to court, you don't go to jail. It's the first time you get slapped on the wrist, and that's emboldening you to thinking, well, if this what's happened to me.
So when we finish with the root cause, then we come to the solution. Yes. So the root cause, as I said, we have this parenting, as we have all said. There was one program that was done by BBC, and they got a young guy from Croydon who was one of those pushing these guys. And they asked the guy, so what do you do? He said, I target single children coming from single parents, especially single mothers. Then we give them money. We can make them £500 a week.
That's right.
And that is what they do. They say they target single parents who are raising up children who are struggling.
And are also happening within 2 parents' home.
Yeah, so I'm coming because you see, normally this is what the guy said, because it's very easy
to target
a single parent mother than somebody who is there with the father and the mother.
Yes.
The supervision is stricter.
Yes.
By a single parent, as we were saying, the mother is not there. Yes. The mother is gone to work. Most of our African Caribbean descent, the mother is gone to work, when probably in the morning, after that going in the evening.
2-3 jobs.
2-3 jobs. So the kids are just roaming around. Then this boy said, and they will target them. And he said he can make them £500 a week. So the guy who was interviewing said, when will they stop? And he said, as long as these young people are greedy and need money, he doesn't think it will stop. So poverty, as he said, is also part of the whole thing.
Yes.
And these people have seen that there's a need there's poverty in the system. So as long as they can provide something for them to attract them, then they can get it. So these are some of the root cause.
And a lot of this poverty sometimes is self-imposed, because we as parents, we tend to prioritize other things above the very people who are around us, the children. So you are working, you are making the little money you are getting, but rather your focus is not even here. So you are giving the money to those who are not even around you.
Yeah.
And by doing that, that child is always in need of something. And when you can't provide, then they have to look for the alternative. I used to have a neighbor, this young boy called Luke. He got stabbed some 2-3 years ago, I think. He told me, "Uncle, I can make about £700 a night." I said, "How do you do it?" So, "Uncle, you don't understand." So, "Tell me why." So, "Well, you know, I can hire a minicab. When I go into that minicab, I can hire them all night. They've got a sticker at the back of the minicab. Police hardly stop the minicab because they know they are professional drivers and all that. And all they do is just moving from one point to the other.
Doing their business.
Doing their business. Now, if a child comes home in the morning and a single parent, the child has got £700, what at all can you do?
And the child doesn't often show if they think the parent's gonna be against it, they're not even gonna show the parent. But the one thing is, imagine if you are a mother and you can't even afford nappies or the electric, and you see your son come in and say, "Mum, here's a little something for that." Do you think the pressure that's on the mum not to accept it? It takes a lot. But what the mum doesn't realize, there's consequence for taking that easy route, because it's what you don't see that catches up with you. Okay? Because often what I said to the parents is that we're too trusting of our children. Oh, our sweet John, our sweet Jane. But you know what? The children show them two face. They've got the home face and they've got the street name. And that is the issue, because if you don't understand what that street name is, then you're going to be surprised when the police come knocking your door, even to say that something's happened to your child, or your child has been arrested for something serious. You only have to go to the Old Bailey, because at the moment I'm there seeing 2 cases. A 16-year-old who's been caught up in a horrendous murder, and when they're in the dock, and you see them sitting there, they look like decent children in a suit, looking very childish. But when you look ahead of them, everything in front of that, they are paying for everything in that room. The judge, the jury, the whole setup is coming through in the invoice that the barrister give, the prosecutor's defense, is in his name. How could they be worth so much when they have done so badly? Yeah, but yet they would not invest in giving them the education in Eton or somewhere or the other. You know, it'd be cheaper for them to send them to those expensive places than to keep them in jail for a year. But yet we choose to keep them in jail not for a year, but for many years.
So what is the solution?
Now this is where I become a specialist, and what I realize is you've got to be able to let those young children make better choices for themselves. You got to the children got to understand.
At what age are you talking about? When you say you have to let young children make better choice,
but
what age is better?
Personally, I'm looking at year 5, year 6. So that's 9, 10. The most formidable year is when they leave primary school and they come into the secondary school. Because what happens between that transformation is that people are telling the youngster, you know what you learn in the primary school is baby stuff. And so if you want to look cool, you got to look cool for the girls, and you got to forget about your books, but you got to start looking and moving in a certain way, and start smoking cigarette that leads to smoking weed, that leads to smoking with a badass attitude. Okay? And sometimes you even have to if you get expelled and then you happen to go into the pupil referral unit, you become even a bigger celebrity in the eyes of some young people. And a simple place, they got hubs that they meet. And the hubs that they choose to meet, and where the grooming happens as well, is simple places like chicken shops, like your McDonald's. These are all spaces where people after school, I sit down there.
You mentioned people referral units. A lot of young people say that they intentionally underperform to get them to people referral units. So they want to meet the right people so that they will do it. Is that the case?
Absolutely, because another thing, because I've worked in the pupil referral unit, and I'm not saying that there may be some good ones out there, but I haven't seen one. Because what I've seen is that they're taking but I'm just giving you my learned experience. And what I see from there is that when I was back at school, if I wanted to set up a gang, I'm going to have to go around different schools to go and find the people I need to find. But when you find in one unit that you can sit down there and see how the boys are conducting themselves, I said, yeah, this one here, I'll bring him in. I could bring him into my business. It's not what they do in the PRU, it's what they do after school. And after school is when they become a nightmare. And a nightmare is that we all get together, let's go and go on the train and start robbing people on the train, for example. Let's go on the bus and start robbing people.
What are you talking about, roughly?
How many hours for?
Because, yeah, the parents are at home. Now we're looking for solutions, and they know they're waiting for their children after school. And these children, after school, what time do they get home?
Look, simply this. If the parents got 2-3 jobs, that's a key latch. That means there's nobody home. So nobody to check to see what's happened to that child. Now, if that child had a bad day, they may want to get to the parent to tell them about what's happened in school. But if you're not there, and by the time your parent come home, they're too tired to have that conversation. So then the child have to find an alternative ways of dealing with his situation. And all too often, there's a fine line between victim and perpetrator. You could be a victim today, and tomorrow I'll wake up and say, you know what, this is it. I'm no longer going to be there. I'm going to go into the kitchen, pick up this knife, and come out, drop my trousers just below my bottom, and start coming, what blood, what? And being angry and being dark and thinking, when you've seen people who are adults who cross the road or are very scared of you, you're thinking, wow, I'm empowering. But that very same power can cause you the biggest problem. But the biggest problem is people who get killed or injured by carrying their own knives. Because simply, if I know that you are carrying a knife, Bishop, you know what? If I've got beef with you, I'm not going to give you an opportunity to pull that. I'm going to come on.
Do they carry this knife around?
Yes, they carry it around. They're not only knives. Now they're carrying swords. They're carrying.
But we have the police there. So what is happening? That young people are able to carry knife without detection.
Well, without detection is simply because if we expect to be stop and search, if you're a youngster going out on the road and you're involved in that life, you are primed to say that I'm going to be stop and search. So therefore, I've got to put my knives somewhere where I need to reach it, or get another victim.
So where are they getting all these knives from?
Get another victim. Simple. I'm talking about the internet, from the kitchen, and from other associate that they may move with. The drug dealer who says that, look, I'm giving you this consignment to go and sell. Now, if someone come and rob you of your consignment, you still owe the drug dealer for that consignment. And what the drug dealer said, I will give you the weapon, and I will give you the men to go and find a man them to get my consignment back or get my money back. Because if you don't, the retribution is coming on you. Do you understand?
It's a war out there.
It's a war because they come in thinking it's going to be like the pavement of gold. But what happened is they quickly get above their station. And then they find out that, you know what, that the drug dealer can say, right, this man, we're going on a ride out. A ride out is simply that we're coming together as a force, and we're going down to the other end, and we are going to look for the man. And if we can't find the man, we'll find anybody who may be associated to that end. And some people are more valued than others. Okay? So if they can get a high target value,
the more valued you are, the more likely you'll be
you'd be set to be murdered.
We'll come back to you again. Thank you, Mr. Quayson.
I think as a community we need to build more networks, because most often we find it even difficult to talk about our challenges with our own family at home. And I think the only way we can do that is to share. There's this saying that a problem shared is probably half solved. Somebody else may be going through.
Yes.
They may share some knowledge with you that you may not have. And I think we need to do that. We also need to try and engage our children as a community, have community programs that are tailored towards children of certain category of age. Like, for instance, we, the union, we do tend to have, we have a star project in conjunction with Miss Ghana UK, Ghana Union UK, and we do mentoring for the girls prior to the pageant. They spend about 3-4 months taking them away and showing them.
Why is this not spread in all the associations?
Well, you see,
now most people are saying all the associations, all they do is party.
This is why I'm saying that the associations, the community need to have a vision.
So
we need to revise our vision.
You are from Ghana Union now. What can you do to support the?
Well, you see, the problem is the associations operate independently. Okay, each association it's like a church. Okay. You can have 20 branches, but when you go to each branch, they have their own administrative structure. The association, I can go to association and say, give us 5,000 to set up a group, engagement policy. You need to actually have the conversation with them and try and change their mindset from all this lavish entertainment into something else. But it's a big challenge because our people, they take little pleasure in some of the things that are happening.
So why can't you set up committees that you take 2 or 3 from each of those associations?
You come together
and you find.
What we did is having these groups coming and saying, look, our community is our future is dying away.
Yes.
What can we do rather than keeping money? And always, yes, we have problems back in Ghana. We have issues that every group wants to solve. Everybody wants to buy the best mattresses or equipment for Kolebu or whatever hospital. But at the end of the day, your children are dying at your doorstep here. So why don't you devote some of those money and say, look, let's come together, do something that we know our children, and actually put them in charge of it. Let them take control of what they are doing.
That's right.
If we have children about 20 kids and you give them a budget, look, every year I want you to do X, Y, and Z, and they own it, they will actually get their friends to come. If we, the adults, do it, they don't normally want to turn up. So what we did with this Star Project debate is that we leave those who can understand the language. Just like Luke told me, Uncle, you don't understand. Because the kind of things he is talking about, he's looking at my face thinking, oh, as for Uncle, you're too slow. Because he's all this kind of people that understand the language. And I wasn't buying it. So what we need to do is have families whose children have either gone through this to the better end and actually use them as role models to try and get the youth together. We do this, Ghana Youth Day program, which we did September the 5th this year. And a lot of children, youth came around, 14, 15, 16 and all that. And we did help with in terms of even a common writing a CV or something that will get you out there.
Do you think that having something like every month, not every month, like every other month or every quarterly, that you have programs like parenting, where someone comes in and help all the different associations with the problem they have, in consultation with maybe with the churches and things like that? Will they help?
It will help. It will help the parent.
And also encourage them to be open.
It will help the parent. But what we want to do is translate that to the children. Okay? The parents will come and know about how I can manage things at home, how I can handle my child, and all that.
Yes.
But we need the children to get involved. And actually, when the kids don't trust you, they don't even open up to you.
Our children becoming isolated. In a way, particularly in the African community and Caribbean community, parents go out or more often, the children are being left.
They spend in front of the PlayStation, and they don't play no longer the PlayStation themselves. They play around the world. They could sit down in that room, and spend many hours on that box and do everything out there. But I just want to ask you something. Why is it? Because, like, again, the Jewish community got something, the rites of passage, and where they come from childhood to manhood. Why is it that we can't re-establish that in the African Caribbean community, where we can take these young people and give them that experience by taking them back to places in Africa? Because particularly in my community as a Caribbean, is that many of my people don't even recognize or associate themselves with Africa. right? But what they fail to realize, until they take their ancestor spirit back to Africa, that spirit is going to be wandering.
That is what is causing the problem.
I believe so, because it's causing us to look at ourselves. How can we internalize it? We do not go.
Are socializing all the time and going out, going to restaurants, going to parties, leaving their children at home alone. Are they isolating their children? The parents, even some parents. Someone was saying to me that you have to just look at African parents going to church. You know, the way they dress and going to party. They look at their children. Then you know if they are caring for them or not. Bishop, what's a way forward, a solution for this?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have a quick points that I want to put forward as solution. I call it number 1, parenting. Number 2, policing. Number 3, community. And number 4, judicial.
Okay.
Yeah, but before that, I want to hear a little bit about your take on stop and search before I continue.
My take simply on stop and search is that stop and search is a tool in a police armory that they can use to actually deter or detect crime. But it has to come from a place where it's been intelligence led. For far too long, it's been racial profiling. And racial profiling is not giving us the result that we need. For example, we see stop and search, they're shouting stop and search is good for tackling knife and gun crime. But because I'm a person who monitors stop and search each month, look at the figures, I then break down those figures. And what I see is that less than 3% of their stop and search, usually each month, is for tackling knife and gun crime. So if stop and search is so effective, why are we tackling it for getting so little back from that stop and search? Because that energy would be better spent if they work with the community to actually change the mindset of that young person. Because they say the central thing why people say that they carry a knife, they don't feel safe. So if they don't feel safe, what are we as the elders doing to try to turn that around? So it's, and what we are doing as Community Against Violence is going into those hotspot areas as identified by the police and the community and having an engagement with the young people that's there.
So will you say you are against stop and search?
I'm not against stop and search, but I'm against the overuse of stop and search.
All right. So I'll come in with my points. Parenting, I said parenting in the first place. I was at the place of this young boy who died last week, and I was saying the same thing to the parents. Now, before any young person turns bad, it comes from a house. We are all parents. We are with our kids in the morning, in the afternoon, and in the evening. What I always teach my church and the parents is that, look, make sure you know your child.
Yes, it's important.
The children we have in the house, they can look like angels, but when they are outside, they are terrorists. Unless you want to know your child, you will not know your child. When they are in the house, they are very meek, mild, humble, or uncle, auntie, mommy.
Respectful.
The same child when he gets outside, because normally I jog.
What causes that?
I'm coming. Normally I jog from the house to the church, or I walk sometimes, and in some of the odd times you meet a couple of the young people that you know, and sometimes you'll be amazed. This meek child that you know, you see them outside misbehaving, you will be amazed. So my first point is that every parent, looking at what is happening now, because figures I have here, knife and violent crime has increased by 35%.
Yes.
You understand? So it's everywhere. Every child is a target. So let's make sure that we know our children. We check their behavior. We check what they are into. We know where they are at each time. If your child closes at 4 and by 9 o'clock he's coming, you, the parent, has to figure out. And I'm not talking of a 19 or 20-year-old. It's like 14 years.
13, 14, yeah.
You see, so if even you are not home, make sure there's a neighbor that you can say that, look, my child might be home at 4. Make sure, so that you are monitoring, because most of the time we say that the devil finds work for the idle hand. And if you look at the times of the knife crime, they say that an hour or two after school has closed. So if your child is home 30 minutes or immediately after school, it means they're not going to be involved. An hour or two after school when they are hanging around those places. So parents will play a very big part. If I see that my child is involved in this, I mean, most of these boys we're talking about, 14, 15, 16, 17, they're not at that point whereby they can't be talked to. You take them to an elder, you take them to another senior man, you can find another young man like them who is straight and say, look, talk to him for me, and we'll be able to share with him, look, the dangers, like what he has been through. If my child is into something, I bring him to him, he will tell, look, I was a gang, I did this, I did this. That will help. So parenting is number one.
And I think with the bishop, what bishop is saying, that comes to the point, sorry, I'm just adding to what bishop is saying. That comes to sharing our mind with people.
Yeah.
Because when you don't talk, how would I be able to approach you to even advise my child? Because I feel like it's a shame to even talk about my child to another Ghanaian. That is one of the problems we have.
But
or another African person.
Other parents have reported to me that when they talk about their business, private matters, then the other people also spreading it in the community, so they become very fearful.
Well, that's true. But then, would you rather do that or
well,
lose your child?
You talk to people you trust.
Exactly.
Yes.
There are a lot of trusted people. Now, if I came and I share with him that, look, my boy is into this stuff. He is an experienced person. He knows what it is. He will sit him down and say, boy, look, this. And you'll be amazed from the figures that I know. If you speak to 10 people, 7 of them are bound to take it.
Yes.
There'll be some that you,
Not
if
gonna
even
mix.
Jesus come, they won't take it.
That's right.
Parenting is very important. If I say parenting, that like he's sharing, not only you, but you try to involve people around you. Maybe I close at 6, but I know that my neighbor closes at 4. I say, look, my boy, my girl will have to be home at 4 when he comes. Maybe take care of him. So we need to engage in that. Number 2 is what I call policing. Now, if you look at these figures that I have, police resources have fallen by 19% since 2010. 19%. And at the same time that the police resources have fallen, figures of crime has been going up. Home Office figures show that between 2010 and 2018, the police has reduced their forces by 18%. Now, we're talking about the boys carrying knife because they think they are not safe. Why are they not safe? Because if anybody attacks them, there's no policeman around to even... when I came here, anywhere you pass, there's a policeman. Anywhere you pass, there's a policeman. So you know that you are safe. Now, most of the time, our church is in an area where there are a lot of these boys around. Sometimes they'll break the window or something or call something. You call for police, by the time they come, it's an hour. So these boys also know that there's no immediate remedy around to fool about. So when they fool about and they know you call police, it's going to take another hour. By that time, they've done whatever they want to do and they've gone.
What you are saying, I just want to add it to Bishop to say that apparently it's reported that when Baptista was stabbed, the boy who stabbed him managed to run away in front of Stratford with McDonald's, with a lot of people there. It's not only one person, you're talking about a lot.
And can you imagine a place like Stratford, McDonald's?
How busy it is?
There's no one policeman.
No, this is police because you've got British, because I go on operation with the police. British Transport Police base is there, and they have their patrol around that footprint. But the fact of the matter is that when a person's got the red mist, they don't care whether the police is there or not. They are still going to come out and do something.
Yes, that is true. But at that time, if there were police around, they'll be able to do something. Yes. Because it was into a brawl. And he managed to run away.
There were adults there, but not adults. Adults step back and say, the adults said, I don't want to get stabbed, so I'm not getting involved.
That is another question to deal with. Evidence. And that's another whole question. Because of the way the police and the judicial deals with evidence, people don't want to get involved. So if you are not empowered to arrest, then you don't have to get involved. So what I'm saying is that this is McDonald's, this is Trafford, shopping mall. Where were the police? You understand? If there was police presence, immediately you see a brow, the police will be in. They are the ones.
The Prime Minister recently prayed to increase the police numbers by
20,000.
And I can give you figures where there has been police reduction and crime has gone up. I have all here, but because of time, I can. So, parenting, policing. Then I come to the community. The community is what I say that if you look at.
We take it or we wait?
We wait just maybe when I finish.
Let me tell please, can you hold on, please? Hold on. Thank you.
Just 5 minutes.
Yeah, hold on, please. Yeah.
Now.
Yeah. Can you call back in 5 minutes, please?
No.
You don't mind. We start taking calls in 5 minutes. Thank
now, over the past 15 years, 70% of community resources for young people
has been cut off.
Yes, cut. That's right.
You
So
don't see anything anywhere.
And
youth services.
we saw it even harder when the Conservatives came on with the austerity measures.
And again,
Cutting this.
with Bishop just analysis, I was in court for a young boy who went run scratching cars. When he got arrested, they asked him, I was born.
They don't have anything doing. There used to be YMCA.
And this is somebody, sorry, Bishop, with all respect, this is somebody with a very good character, right? He's never got into trouble before. But for the sake that he went around doing that, he was almost going to get a criminal record for damage to property, which would have destroyed his future with that record forever.
So there's not all those community things. The fundings have dried up. So these young people, when they come out of their houses, there's nothing. There's no football clubs. There's no YMCAs.
Is this the responsibility shifting to the government, or is it for the parents to find something for them to do?
The government has to provide it for the community, because when the community has resources to receive these young people, then at least you are safe. When I came here, there was a community I used to go and play table tennis. When you go there, a lot of young people there, and there's always an attendant there to make sure that we are behaving and
that's
everything.
right.
If you have table tennis,
youth worker.
if you have this, if you have that, then when these boys, look, these boys are full of energy. You look at some of our estates, when they close and come home, there's virtually nothing there. So the community involvement must increase. Coming back to Ghana Union and also like the high commissions, this week alone, 2 Ghanaian boys have died. And if you go back, there are so many of them that have died, over 50.
Of course.
You understand? What is the Ghana High Commission doing? What is the Ghana High Commission?
They will be here next week.
Their involvement in it. We live here, they are the commissioners for us. It's not only the British government to do something for the community.
We have to do something.
The Jamaican community will have to come together and say, look, let's create this for ourselves. The Ghana High Commission has to come and say, let's create this for ourselves. They are not commissioned just to sit there and be given visas and be given instructions. But knowing that this is a problem, one of the things we have identified is this community involvement. They can come up with something and say that, look, let's build this, let's even rent this place for the blacks or the Ghana community or the blacks. We have a youth group in our place. Everybody come. We have about 31 nationalities. But the commission, the Ghana High Commission and the Nigerian High Commission, the Jamaican High Commission, they should also focus.
That's right.
That we have to also get involved in this and bring our solution and not think, oh, they are in Britain, so it's the British government's problem. Now the last...
It seems like you are talking about the end of our program. That is what we intend to do. Bring all the high commissions together.
Then when they come, you tell them I said that.
Together. Yes.
The last thing before is what I call the sentencing. The sentencing that these boys have been receiving is ridiculous. If they are found with knives, it's like 3 months to 9 months.
The first time it's suspended. The second time could be a second suspended. Then the third time could be 6 months, but which you only serve 3 months,
3 months,
but you can come out on tag after 9 weeks. Wow. You understand? So you're on tag for a lot longer.
So these boys carrying knives, they are not afraid because look, if you catch them, they're going in for 3 months and like you say, suspended sentence.
First time suspended, second time suspended. So you
third
have to have third time.
Good.
That third time you would have killed somebody.
So the sentencing is ridiculous. Now, if you are found with a knife and they are giving you
suspended sentence,
let's say 9 months. If you are found with a gun, it's years.
5 years minimum.
5 years.
And then for every bullet you're found with is 1 more year.
But
added to it.
Knives have killed 70% or even 80% of the people than the gun. So which means the knife is more dangerous than the gun.
Yes.
Right.
You understand? So the judiciary have to sit down and think that, look here, the gun we thought is more dangerous. It's virtually not killing anybody. But it's these knives. So let's lift the sentencing of the knives to that high level, so that if there's a boy who knows that just by this knife being found on me, I'm going in for 5 years. That will also make them.
Let me say one thing on about that, because my thing is simply this.
Hold on, please,
because what's happened is, whereas before the knives were small knives that they're carrying, but now they're carrying swords. So that means
can buy them for
my thing is simply this: for every inch of the knife they get catch with, they should be doing a year. So that means the bigger the knife, the greater is a sentence. There is no deterrent but given to them. And if you're under 18, it's even much more harder for you to go to jail or to get reprimanded on that. We need, particularly now, if you see the group that's carrying the knives, are groups between age 14 to 18 are the biggest carriers.
We will let you continue. Let's listen to this caller, please. Please, who's calling and where are you calling from, please?
Hi, good evening, panel. My name is Patrick Mensah, and I'm just calling from Morton.
Okay.
I've been listening very closely to your discussion, and I just got a couple of comments to make. Some of which you might deem it, quite controversial, but it is thought-provoking. One, I do agree with Bishop Sarpong's view that parenting has got a role to play. It is very true, but the problem we are facing is not one point. It is multifaceted, right? One, sense of belonging. Two, austerity measures. Three, the culture that this country has. Nobody wants to get involved because they don't want to get into a problem. I give an example with the Woolwich. The Woolwich killing of the soldier. You could see what happened exactly. There is a culture that people don't want to get themselves involved because they don't want to give evidence and stuff like that. So that is also one aspect. And getting back to what Bishop Sarpong said, parents need to know their children. It is very important because some parents do just give the benefit of the doubt that their kids are kids and they don't go into their wardrobes to check out what they're doing. Because as a parent, you need to know your child inside out. And I do agree with what the bishop is saying, but it's a plethora of problems that we cannot pinpoint and say, this is a single solution, this is a single solution.
That's
it's a multifaceted problem that we have to come together as a community for everybody to bring their ideas, because we need to ask the question that what can I as an individual do to help my community, rather than we come under structures and we come under leaders. The leaders got to play a role, but as individuals, we have a role to play as to what we can do to facilitate the dire status quo that we are in. And one point that I was saying that I said it would be deemed as controversial. The black kids that are there, there's not being done about it because we are not really talking about this, but it is a big fact that people are not talking about. It's about spare parts. It's about human spare parts.
What do you mean spare parts and human spare parts?
Yes. When these young kids are stabbed, you know, though it's not on record, we do know. We do get information, but it's not official. So, during autopsy and stuff like that, some of their spare parts are removed and then put on the organ donor bags.
That's right.
Which is unofficial. So, in some way, it is benefiting the system in some way. So that is why stringent and drastic measures are not being implemented, because the system is benefiting to some extent.
Let me comment on that. Let me comment on that.
Before I finish, let me greet Mr. Quayson. He's a relative of mine. I'll try and get in touch with him after the program.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Let me comment on that.
Hold on, caller. Go on.
Let me comment on that.
Hold on, caller, please. Thank you.
It started with blacks dying, but the figures now, it's not only blacks dying.
That's right.
It's all over.
Young
In fact,
people.
the highest places, Kent and South Yorkshire. You understand? So, if we limit it to only blacks dying and their spare parts are being used, so everybody they are not taken, then we'll be stretching it too far.
Yes.
It started with us dying, but now it's everywhere.
That's right.
The whole of the United Kingdom,
Liverpool, Manchester, Birmingham.
So now it's not only our kids dying. And in fact, I made this statement a couple of years ago. That look, now it's our kids dying. If you don't do anything about it,
It'll be yours.
it's going to be everywhere. And that is exactly what's happening. So now, to stretch it to spare parts. Look, I've been in the hospital a couple of times. Legally, if you don't consent,
So I was just
they
about to
can't
say that.
touch your body.
Yeah.
You understand? And if you die, the parts are irrelevant. You understand? If you die, the parts, if you die, the parts are irrelevant. Unless your mother or your next of kin consent.
Yeah.
So I've been there so many times where the parents have said, no, we won't consent, and the person. So if we stretch it too far there, then people will be giving us some
Reacting,
panicking,
panicking.
panicking in the So now what they are doing is that because a lot of people have not been consented, they are doing. You have to opt out.
That's right.
So if you don't opt out, then technically you have consented.
That's right.
So that when there's that issue, so I wouldn't want to stretch it too far there.
Okay.
And one of the things he said that I want to comment on, that we need to search their wardrobe, is very important. Just last week, I was there. One of distant friends came. He said the 17-year-old was not there. Then he went to the room and took the pillow. Come and see drugs. 17-year-old, he took the pillow and there were drugs all over. So we need to know our kids.
Yes.
Sometimes we need to do a spot check if we suspect something to really find out. Because in these countries, like if you go to the room of your 12-year-old, you have
You're violated.
You have violated and all of that.
And this is where our culture, I mean, there's a conflict between our culture and the culture we have here.
That's right.
But you should be the adult at home.
Yes.
Your child shouldn't be able to tell you can't come to my room, you can't touch my...
But is it not about parental insight? Sorry,
Part
caller.
of parenting
Is it not about
is
parental
control.
insight to say that as people go to work, they do training so that they become efficient in their jobs. However, parents don't update their knowledge and skills. In the 21st century, the challenges have become different.
Look,
so
this is why I
become-
started by saying we need education.
Look, my
Yes.
take
We
is
need to
this.
educate ourselves. Because a lot of us parents within our communities don't even know what is it that we are expected to. And some, for fear of not finding yourself at the wrong part of the law, we rather not bother.
Yeah.
That is one of the key issues.
Thank you. I'll let take this call, then we continue. Please, who is calling and where are you calling from?
I'm calling from South London.
Have you experienced any of this in terms of the knife with children, the gangs and all that?
Yes, apparently that was 3 years ago. My son went to a party, and when he went to the party, he went with his 3 friends. And around that area, he wasn't sure whether there was gang there or not. That's what he said to me. So he and a friend went to the party, and during the party, there were these guys that have masks, came inside the party, and they were chasing them.
Wow.
So
Chasing everybody at the party or just them?
And not everybody at the party.
Wow.
So everybody was running for their life.
Wow.
And unfortunately, once you go into the bath, they will actually attack you. So I don't know what happened. My son was actually attacked and dragged off from the bath. Wow. And then whilst he was screaming, the knocked door neighbors heard him and called the police that a boy has been attacked. So the police came to his rescue. When they came, he's been beaten and his phone has been taken off from him. And then the police called me that, oh, your son has been stabbed as a pardon. He said, no, it's not serious. I think they wanted to stab, but they stabbed him at the button, his bum. Luckily, that's where the knife actually went.
You got archery. You got
archery. They actually twisted the knife. So once he got through, the knife was twisted, so the hole was actually deep, and then it can go to left or right. That's what they did. So he was a bit lucky. So what I'm going to tell parents is that, you know, these boys are very, very naughty, and they don't even listen to their parents. Once they will tell you they are here, but the next time they will be there. That is the problem. He was going to a different party. He ended up in another party. So you wouldn't even know where your son is to begin with, because you know that probably he's going to South Norwood. By the time you realize he's in Shelley.
Yeah. You're right.
So you wouldn't even know where your son is. So it's quite hard for all these parents to even keep track with their children. But I was lucky. Nothing actually happened to me.
But we have to do our best to keep track.
Yes.
They are evasive, but let's try our best.
And simply, why aren't the parents going to pick them up and say, I will come and pick you up, drop you and pick you up? Right, that way it's...
Fair enough. I'm saying that. He said he's going to another party. He was ended up in another party with some friends.
The situation is sometimes you have to understand. A 16, 17-year-old who wants to go to a party, they will not even, for a parent to say, I will drop you, they don't even want it.
No, they said it's embarrassing.
That is the problem. The moment they start year 7, even dropping them at school becomes a headache.
Some parents are lucky. Some parents, I won't use the word lucky, they have their own skill.
Yes.
That they manage to be able to manage the children in that way that assisting, they are able to drop them. But I know a number of children who will say it's embarrassing.
They don't even want the school children to know that my dad keeps dropping.
So what's the way forward here?
We will not be able to control every child.
Yes.
Thank you.
But we'll be able to control a lot of them. You understand? We don't have to say because of that we have given up. I have 5 kids. I live with 7 kids in my house. There are rules and regulations. Some of them are 25, 21. Some of them are finished university, some are in university. Wherever you are going, I have to know. Or you are not
even at 25?
Yes.
That's good.
So how do I know where you are? You understand?
Yes.
You live in my house. I'll be a very stupid parent if my daughter goes out and I don't know where she is. I'll be a very stupid parent. I'm not controlling where you are going, but let me know that I'll be at Hackney at this party. Fine. What time are you coming home? 2 a.m. Look, 2 a.m. is to try and make sure by 1 you are.
But to be able to get to that stage, Bishop, that means you have relationship.
That is exactly what I mean. Parenting is part of it. We don't have to be screaming.
Some parents don't have that.
We don't have
relationship.
to be. We have to have that relationship with them for them to know you love them. At the end of the day, I mean, we've all been young people before. We like party and whatever. If your parents are interested in you, you know that your parents are interested in you. And there are children who will tell, like my kids, they will tell their mothers everything. So no matter what where they are going, they always let me know. We'll be at this place, we'll be at this party, that we're coming home at this time. When it's time, I call them, where are you? You understand? For your own safety. Then
Victor, can I come in for a second?
You can come in, mommy.
You know what? You know all the children are not the same.
That's true.
You've got four. I've got 4 boys, but they are different characters, as I will say.
That's right.
One of them will tell me I'm going this so and so, and this one will tell you that he wouldn't even tell you where he's going, but he said I'm here, but he will be there. And then you see they have different. They've got different characteristics, and then you can't actually. They are trained the same way, but they are different.
That's
so
very true.
So you'd be lucky to have all of them listening to you.
That's why I'm saying that. That's why I'm saying we shouldn't give up.
But
we should try.
I would say to you, even though they may not listen to you, this is where you need to go out and find other grassroots groups that's actually dealing with the situation about parenting, because people, what your mum or your dad might have taught you about parenting may not be so good for today. So, but if we go to parenting classes that we've set up for ourselves to deal with this issue, so it keeps you abreast of what is fresh, then you will more likely find other ways. Because what we do, we will offer things like aunties and uncles support to the family, because you might not be able to do everything yourself, and sometimes you might not have an extended family to go to. But if we're able to set up, and yourself, if you're looking after somebody else's child and you know that somebody's looking after your child, there'll be more children that will feel safe in that experience, and we will bring back the respect that we need for the elders that has been missing. Because the young boys are saying to me, we are the elders, what they're doing. You know what I mean? So this is why the disrespect is there. They don't see the elders being there for them. So therefore, don't tell me nothing. Don't get into my business. That's otherwise, right. I will do you something.
Just to add something to what he was just saying. You see, young people are such that if you show them, you love them. Even when they are bad, they'll still respect you.
Yeah.
And respect your idea. Yes. I'm getting to 60. But if you come to the church, I'm with 14-year-old, 15-year-old, telling me, sometimes the parents are afraid of me because I'm the bishop. Sometimes they ask their kid, look, we are afraid of the bishop. So what are you discussing with them? They couldn't figure out how the kids will be so comfortable with me, and they are not comfortable with them.
Yes.
You see, because sometimes as parents, we act like an African school teacher.
One way.
One way.
Yes.
Either I'm going to beat you, I'm going to do this, full of judgment. And when you are so judgmental towards a child, they don't want to tell you anything. But when you let them know that, look, I know your weakness, and I'm still with you. I know you are down here, but I'm still with you. I'm interested in your well-being. Whatever you are doing, I just want to make sure I help you. When kids know that, they themselves will come and volunteer information to you. But
That's
they know
right.
that this person loves me.
That's right.
But if we behave like parents who are just looking for the bad things they are doing and say, hey, you are doing this, hey, then they won't volunteer information.
They will disconnect.
They will disconnect. So let's show that we love them, we understand their challenges, we know what they are going through, and we are there with them. Then they know that, we already know everything.
Although you said this, that some children, from my understanding from research, you will do everything for them.
That one we have
That's
it.
exactly what I was going to say. That there are some
And they will still disappoint the parents.
That one you have it.
There are some cases that their friends, what their friends tell them matters more than what the parents are saying.
Yes.
And that comes from the friends they have at school and the relationship they build around themselves. It's like, as for mom and dad, all they
don't
talk
know
is rubbish. They don't listen. They don't know nothing. So you try and drum in all your ideas. They're looking at it as another lecture.
So we should reflect on our values as a parent.
But I would say
that if you are going on the right, if not, you learn, like you said.
but I would say simply, you've got to be distinguished between rescuing the youngsters and supporting the youngsters. Because if you rescue youngsters, what's going to happen is you're going to make them lazy. They don't have to try. And if they're not trying, then they say, well, Ken's going to always come be there for me. But and I did that for many years with young people, and I find the young people weren't progressing. but because I've got them into work and then they don't respect the work. I got them into the home, change a residential home. They don't respect that. But I find...
Thank you, Kola. Do you have anything to say?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
But I find that when you offer them, to ask them what they want to do, what they want to be, and you support them on their journey, they will run with that. So I'm saying be mindful what kind of help we are offering to our young people, because all too often the mother's love is a soft love. And what they may need is that tough love. And again, we've got to recognize that what is best for that youngsters. You may be doing things for years. I'm thinking I've always shown him love. But that may be the wrong sort of thing, because what he needs is the line to say, this is you don't cross this line here. I'm the parent.
And he just mentioned the word tough love. This is one of the weaknesses of some of us, the parents. We think by showing, yes, no parent will ever have a child and not love them. I don't believe that. Now, there's a distinction between giving love and also making sure that there's a borderline between when you cross that love, you have to deal with the consequences. And sometimes we fail in that duty. We think we are just giving. And they are taking it and they're not giving nothing back. So there has to come a point in time where you draw the barrier and say, listen, if you don't achieve X, Y, and Z, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. And that is where they need. Because some children, no matter how you try, you have to be a bit firm with them. Because any leniency becomes, they will trample on.
Weakness.
And they take you to school, they take you to places. There are some teachers in class that they can't even concentrate on the work because one child is making their life a hell. And then yet you get the parents of that child going to school, arguing with the school.
Yes, yes.
Hello, do you think a teacher will leave home thinking, I know there are some ones that always may do that. But how many teachers will leave home in the morning thinking, I'm going to go and try and make this child's life a hell?
Most teachers are also of the view that parents are trying to give them responsibilities, and instead of them having responsibility for their children, they're leaving them to parent the children.
Well, in these schools, right, we have now, you are just passing through. A teacher, if you become a troublemaker, they will just carry you on until year 6, year 11, and you're gone. To them, it's a job. Some of them genuinely want to see your success and turn you around and all that. But if you're doing it and you're bouncing back all the time, then there come a point in time they will just tick your mark and put you in detention and put you in seclusion room. You have a child that goes to school and cannot spend one term without detention. Do you think they are doing the teacher a favor or themselves? They're not doing anywhere. They are actually, you thinking you're sitting in seclusion room while your friends are studying. How are you going to compete with them?
But then we are shifting the blame to the child rather than parents taking responsibility. Now, some children are also intentionally behaving that way to underperform.
To seek attention.
So that, because some are saying that the school, the way they group them, where the achieving children, the A students sit on one side, B students sit there, C, and then the underperforming or achieving children sit on one side. Now, those children sometimes being together there, some children intentionally want to be there, so that they misbehave, and then they feel that they don't have any future. So therefore, they are more likely to join gangs. They have to be a way to miss the children at Bishop.
Well, I wouldn't want to go into school system and that probably we're about to conclude. In conclusion, what I would say is that violent crime has already hit 100 this year. The whole of last year, it was 116 or so. We are in
35, I think.
Yeah, 35. We are in October and we've already hit 100. Now, the figures I have here, 2013, there were 2,639 deaths. 2018, we had 4,000 violent crime. This is an epidemic. Everybody is involved. If it's not you, it's your cousin. If it's not your cousin, it's your friend. So one of the things that I am proposing, I think the last time I was here I talked about that, is what I call community awareness. We have to do something for the whole community to know that we are aware this is happening. And this is what I have proposed, because I try to engage the community groups like the African Caribbean shops, the restaurants, for us to choose a day or a weekend where we will all create awareness, come up with leaflets. So if there's a party, there's a funeral, there's a restaurant, is there community against knife crime for that weekend. For the kids also to know that, look, everybody is now aware of what is happening. Because if we don't do that, it's like it's under the carpet. But it's happening everywhere. So I have set up a day, the mid of November, to do it with few people that we can. And I think I'll come here for you also to promote it. Because I've tried to engage others, but it's very difficult to get everybody on board. But at least if we start with the little we have, whereby if it's a cake restaurant, there'll be a leaflet there against knife crime. If there's a funeral, there'll be a leaflet there. And that we can at least, everybody will be aware, so that we all know that it's all of us our problem. Not only the mother who's 15-year-old or 17-year-old have died, it's all of us our problem. And I think once we do that and create that awareness, that will also help our young ones to know that, look, we have to do something about this because we're causing harm to our parents.
I'll go a step further with the bishop, because we've got a group called Haringey Communities Against Violence. And that's simply made up of umbrella groups, who's an individual, anyone who's interested in eradicating violence and find out what is the latest trend to be aware of. Because people weren't aware of what county line is. People just think county line is people leaving London to go Luton, Birmingham, Margate and things of that nature. County line is where people are coming from, like South London, to come into North London to stand on a gang hotspot. Because no other young local person will stand there because they know how dangerous it is with drive-by and this nature. So what we do quite clearly is to say to the parent, don't wait for it to come to your home. Go out and invest. You got the internet. Invest and see what group is around you, and go and add something to that group. Because what we find is that we are very under-resourced, but we can be very resourceful if we really believe in the cause, and that's got to be the way forward.
I also think that we need to work together. The community, the churches, the groups, we all have a role to play. I mean, for the lack of better words, the churches, they have a huge role because the parents are there every weekend, every Sunday. So I would like to see churches opening their platform, let's say their podium, once in a month, one Sunday in a month, where it's about education about gang crime, or it's about community issue. Because we are doing the preaching every Sunday. We've done it over and over the years. There's nothing wrong saying, look, once in every month, this sermon will be dedicated to issues about gang crime or issues about, anything that is current. Because that's where we get the parents. When it comes to the groups, the parents need to now join wherever they belong to. They need to now start having innovative ideas rather than just meeting and talking about things that they've said over and over. Why don't you dedicate some time and say, look, we've been doing debates called Our Community, Our Problem, Our Solutions. We've been doing it at Stratford Circus. We do it every 3 months. Sometimes it's so disheartening that you go out of the way, you rent the premises. We as a Ghanaian community, we don't have a center. I mean, the mission premises is for official premises, official use. It's not for that. Occasionally, we may be able to use it. But when you rent those places, you go into course and then you turn up and the attendance.
Very poor.
And as a charity where you have no funding, it's not easy to be running these programs and nobody showing up. So when you see active participation of the parent from group level to the community level, then hopefully we can all work together to try and make a difference. We can't save every single life, but we can save some lives. The issue is gone so much that if we don't tackle it, if we don't start now, 5 years to come, it will be a different story.
Yeah, Baptista AJ, 15 years, who was wearing his school uniform, was stabbed. Another friend was also stabbed and is in critical condition in hospital. And today we have learned a lot from you. Bishop, thank you,
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for all your support. The General Overseer of Calvary Charismatic Baptist Church around the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bishop.
And I have to say, what you're saying, the Bishop is one of the key community leaders. People that
Yes.
actually carry a lot of weight, and his work is always known.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
We're doing a special 6-week program, and we would like Bishop to come back again. I think when the mayor office or one of them comes, you know, we want you to be here with them as well. And also, Mr. Ken Hinds, Chairman Haringey of Haringey Communities Against Violence, and also Stop and Search. Thank you for coming and your contribution today.
Thank you for allowing me the platform. Thank you for allowing me the platform to get the message out there, to saying it's only as a collective can we move forward and do things differently and break the cycle.
Thank you. And also Mr. Emmanuel Kwesi, who is the chairman of Ghana Union. Thank you.
Thank
We
you
have
for
learned
the
a lot
opportunity
today.
to. What we can do is to work together,
Thank you.
see a better future, and embrace each other's issues and work at it.
Thank you. We'll be looking at the critical solutions next week. We'll continue on with it at part 2. We're doing a 6 sections. So every Tuesday at 8 p.m. If you tune in, the knife and gun crime, which has been an ongoing epidemic, like we said, we'll be talking about it. Thank you very much, everyone. And we have learned a lot, and we'll continue on next week. So we'll be looking forward to see you. Thank you. Tune in next week. Thank you very much. God bless you. Good night, everyone. Good night.